Welcome to Unfiltered and Unstoppable with Rob Romesburg. Real strategies for real advisors, a podcast that dives into what it takes to scale a thriving financial practice. Each week, we'll discuss actionable strategies, tools, and insights to keep you ahead in today's financial landscape. From innovative products and powerful marketing tactics, you'll get unfiltered truth and unstoppable strategies. Let's get started by building your unstoppable financial practice today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast today. I am your host, Rob Romesburg, with Unfiltered and Unstoppable. And today we are very fortunate to have join us today, Miss Gretchen Beatty. Gretchen, how you doing?
I'm good, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Totally, absolutely our pleasure today. So Gretchen and I have actually worked together since the year 2000. Isn't that wild?
So crazy. So
Uh,
crazy.
that is insane. So as we sit here today, it is November 6th, 2024. That's 24 years of you being blessed with my relationship. So you
And
are
what a blessing it's been, Rob. It really has.
Gretch, we've got you on today because you are one of the catalysts for our Catalyst team. And for those that are unaware, our Catalyst team consists of many individuals that have over 85 years of experience in regards to business growth, working specifically with financial advisors that are business owners, and more importantly, helping them to take a deep dive into their business to make sure that they have lasting success. And along with that, helping advisors to not only see themselves as, quote, salespeople, but as business leaders, specifically those firms that have 3, 4, 5 other individuals working within that firm to make sure that the head of that firm is a true business leader, because those individuals do really shape the firm's culture, the success, the long-term impact. So along those lines, the Catalyst team really has an approach to taking a look at and identifying why is production stagnant, what's going on with my hiring strategies. Maybe I need to take a look at putting together some critical legal structures. Um, and so overall, Gretchen and her team, the Catalyst team, they give the advisor a toolkit to measure, act, and really build and for the future that they envision. Gretchen, how did I do?
I think you did great. And Rob, one of the things I love about being on your podcast is the title of it, especially the first part, Unfiltered, because when we talk about topics and subjects like what we're going to go through today, unfortunately, a lot of times there's some really hard truths that we have to accept. And so when we talk unfiltered, that's like we're gonna peel back the layers of the onion here and really get to the crux of where a lot of our top financial advisors struggle. And so I'm super excited to explore that with you today.
Awesome, great. So let's jump into it here then. So what one of the things as a human being, it's tough to hear that, hey, you need to change. And I don't care if that's with your diet or your exercise or your business, whatever it is. One of the things that the Catalyst team does right out of the gates is provide a business health assessment. It's quite literally a health assessment on your business. So when you've seen this from a firm, from a financial advisor, what are the most common issues that you've seen from the advisors after they've completed the assessment? And then, after you've recognized that, how does the Catalyst team help approach those hurdles or the changes that might need to change?
It's It's a good place to start because that is where most of the folks start their interaction with our team. The health assessment is, I can't even tell you how many questions it is, but it takes most people about 15 minutes to complete. It's in the Catalyst app, in the portal. And two that come to mind pretty quickly, Rob, as far as what we see most frequently, the number one is by far is failure to plan. Like they don't plan marketing, they don't plan for growth, they don't plan their budget, they don't, like, there's just no planning. It reminds me of the fire ready aim approach. Like we need to start at the beginning. We've got to, we say it time and time again, we've got to begin with the end in mind. So what is it that we need to do today that's going to eventually lead us to the end of a successful business, or a business that one day I can turn around and sell for a great deal of money? So planning is definitely the first one. And I think the second one is just being a mindful business owner. And what I mean by that is, do I have the infrastructure in place? Do I have the documentation? Do I have the record keeping? Do I have all of those things that none of our people want to do? I mean, there's a reason that they don't focus on it, because it's not fun. It's not selling. It's not helping our consumers. It is the in the trenches parts and pieces that we have to do to be able to run a business effectively, efficiently, and quite frankly, legally, and to protect ourselves, protect our consumers, and protect our employees. So those are the two that immediately pop into my head. I think the last part of your question was, how do we help them with those things? We have so many different planning tools, Rob. I can't even begin to tell you. Super excited. One of the newest ones that was just built out in the app is a projection calculator. So being able to say, this is how many clients I'm looking for, this is how I market. Great. We're going to be able to tell you how, what your budget should look like. That calculator can tell you how many appointments you should be holding in a given week, or how many weeks out of a year you should be working. So a lot of good planning tools, all accessible right in the app. And then as far as business structure is concerned, I can't even think right now of who sang the song. I'm sure it's some group that nobody's ever heard of, because my music's a little obscure. But one of the lyrics in the song has stuck with me forever, and it is, decide what to be and go be it. Like, we're not all here to take over the world and be atop the leaderboard and sell a gazillion dollars worth of things. We're not all here to bring on 12, 15, 20 associate advisors. We're not all here to be the biggest and the brightest and the best and have, we're purchasing several different practices. Everybody's desire for their business is probably going to look a little bit different. So decide what you want that to be, and then let the Catalyst team partner with you. And actually, even your marketers at Gradient, everybody at Gradient needs to know what your end game is, so we can give you the tools, the training, the track, and the heavy lifting support to be able to help get you there. That was a lot of me talking, Rob.
No, that was awesome. That was really great. I would say the number one thing that I picked up from that is sometimes that we in our financial firms, we can become a victim of our own success. Like, oh my gosh, we are a very successful firm, and sometimes it has grown too quickly, and all of a sudden it's like I don't know what to do. The monster's kind of taken over, and that's really, in my humble opinion, where the Catalyst team takes over and the expertise kicks in. So kind of along those same lines, how do you help advisors realize when it's time for their next big move, or that next hire? Because, like we've already determined, I'm a salesperson. Maybe I'm not a good manager. I'm not a good leader. I don't have time to train someone. Like, how does someone even realize that? How do you help them realize that?
Yeah, so those are all great reasons why not to hire. So I really appreciate you bringing those up and getting those out of the way pretty quick. But we need help as advisors and as agents, if we're not spending our time on revenue generating activities, we're not making money. We're not helping clients. We're not helping consumers. And so when we're doing things like completing applications or following up on business or taking out the trash or any number of things, that's taking away from not only our bottom line, but also our ability to really get in and help consumers. So one of the first things that we tell people to look at is the revenue of the firm. Are we making enough to be able to hire and bring somebody on? And it's not, I always tell people, if you're going to hire an administrative assistant for say 60 grand, that first week that they work there, or even their first paycheck, you're not stroking a check for 60 grand, right? So as you are making those incremental payments to make payroll, you're also freeing up more of your time, which is in turn, hopefully, going to have you selling more, increasing that revenue. So it's a huge balancing act between, can I afford to do it? And like you said, how do these people get trained? What does that look like? I'm not a good manager of people. And at the end of the day, for a period of time, you are going to have to spend some time with them. You can send them to Admin U at Gradient. We've got lots of great training resources, but we're not sitting in your office every day. So you may have different ways that you do things. And what I always encourage people to do is when you're training somebody, you say it out loud, you do it, they're watching, you have them write down the steps that you did. They write it down, then they take those steps, they try to emulate or duplicate the activity. And from that, you start building out your standard operating procedures. So guess what? When we hire the next person, they're going to have a whole process of how to do all the repeatable tasks that are done in your office.
Love it. I love it. So once again, just a wonderful segue. What are some additional things that we can help them with to find the right person for that role? What are some of the things that our Catalyst team will do?
It's a great question. It depends on, once again, how the agent wants to interact with our team. We have, professionals that actually recruit. That's their full and or very almost full-time job, is to find revenue generators and non-revenue generators to add to their team. So we know the legal questions to ask and what not to ask. We know, we've been around this industry, like you said, forever and ever. So we can screen out resumes really fast. Again, taking all those non-revenue generating activities off your plate. If you are somebody, however, that maybe you want to be a little more in control of the process, perhaps you have an issue delegating. I know none of us are like that. Wow, we're all like that. Don't 100%. Lie to yourself. Unfiltered. We're unfiltered here.
100%.
But if you're somebody that maybe that's not something that you're ready to relinquish control of yet, we also have great tools for you to use. There are trainings in Training Central that walk you through best hiring practices. We've got interview questions that you can ask, that you can't ask, really the whole process laid out and all of the tools that you need to be effective and efficient with it.
Love it. So let's get into the leadership style or building a leadership-driven culture. So we've already talked about that advisors are business owners, not just salespeople. So what leadership principles, as far as the Catalyst team is concerned, does the Catalyst team promote to help an advisor make that kind of that mental operational shift?
It's a good question, and I feel like it's kind of a loaded question. So you've mentioned several times, that our folks, the advisors that we are so fortunate to work with on a daily basis, they're business owners, but they're also phenomenal salespeople. Unfortunately, being both of those things, owning a business and being good at sales, does not make you a great leader. You have to really, really work at being a leader of people. And if that's not something that you're interested in, the best thing that I can tell you is bring somebody in that is that leader and is that manager of people.
Right.
Surrounding yourself with individuals who are great at things that you're not great at, it cuts the ego a little bit. I'm not going to lie. But my goodness, when you talk about something that's going to make a huge impact in your practice, that's probably one of the number ones. If I'm looking at a business from a leadership point and I know my strengths and weaknesses, one of my very first hires or one of my very next hires is going to be who's strong in the area where I'm weak. And if it's leadership, you got to admit that, bring somebody on. Maybe you do a great job at casting the vision, but you need somebody with boots on the ground to help the team get behind that vision and get you driven there.
You know, you and I have had the opportunity to go into many offices over the years, and it's a countless number of times to where we hear from the advisor, you know, we would not be able to operate in this firm without that person or this person. This person really makes sure that we are in line. This person is really making sure that these things happen. And that is a humble individual, meaning that financial advisor, it is their firm to really understand that and recognize that. And, you know, kudos to them, right? Like, I mean, that is something to where that's exactly what you said. Like, I am just not structured. I am not organized. I love meeting with my clients. I need someone else to come into the firm and just run the firm. And once again, that's just something I would say that the Catalyst is very, very, very good at helping our advisors find that individual. So, speaking to having a stable business, having a stable business while you're growing, the Catalyst team has a number of tools for everything from legal structuring to operational insights. So, how do you help an advisor grow their business without um, compromising their work-life balance and also business sustainability as well?
Yeah, so the work-life balance is a big one. You probably experienced this, Rob, and have for the last how many years did you say we'd worked together? 25? Oh, yeah. It's 9 o'clock at night, and I'm getting texts about this or that or the other from our advisors, and it's because they're burning the candle at both ends. They're selling, and then they're also running the business. So when we talk about tools the Catalyst has available, we do have them. But what I would say is so great about working with our team is we're going to dig in and figure out which of those tools you need. You may not need XYZ, but ABC is going to help you get the biggest bang for your buck. So to me, it's all about the customization and the personalization that our team brings to the table in concert with the marketers, to really figure out what's going to move the needle for this business, or what's going to take that rock off that off that owner's shoulders so they feel like they can breathe a little bit. So the tools are great. The tools will go, like, somebody could listen to this podcast today, go out to the Catalyst app, go to the documents section. It's just a huge repository of all kind of business building, operational, you name it, you're going to find it out there, tools. But I feel like without leveraging our team to figure out the where you're wanting to go, where you are now, what are your pain points, that, I can toss any tool at it, but without really having an understanding of those things, I'm probably not doing anybody a whole lot of good.
Yeah, right. That's exactly right. And once again, we've got to have some self-discipline here as well, to making sure that we're focused on those items and implementing them. And so this is ultimately all about, hopefully, enhancing the client experience, and making sure that we are putting the end consumer and their needs first. So kind of transitioning here a little bit, how does the Catalyst team equip an advisor to elevate the client experience? And a second part to that is, why is that why is that so critical to long-term growth for the practice, for the firm?
So many good questions that you just asked there. I want to back up to how you ended. I know you segued, but I'm going to go back. You talked about implementation, Rob, and how
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
that's a big key for a lot of our folks. And again, going back to Unfiltered, I'm not going to sit here and call people out by name. I could,
Be a lot
but
more awesome if you did.
I'll jot them down and slip you a note. How about that?
Great.
We have got to get better at implementation and execution. We go into offices quite a bit. We talk to individuals on the phone each and every day. We end the call by saying, oh my gosh, yes, that's exactly what I need. I'm going to do that. I call back in 2 weeks. Do you think it's been done, Rob? No. So I think several questions back, you talked about, like, let's talk about salespeople and business owners versus business leaders. Business leaders are the ones that actually execute and implement things that are going to drive their business forward. So if you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you know that you're a business owner and you know that you're a fantastic salesperson, but you're really looking to make it to that leadership side of things, start by executing and implementing.
Yeah. 100%.
So I'll leave that one alone, get off that soapbox and move on to the next one. When it comes to the client experience, obviously one of our coaches, can we name coaches like out loud here?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So one of our coaches is Judah Day, and he actually coaches in the 2 pillars of sales and marketing. So if you're looking for improvement in things that fall in those 2 categories, he's probably going to be the one that you're working with, the one that's assigning your goals and telling you what tools you need to execute. Having said that, however, so much of the success of a client experience is the process, right? So if I meet with consumer A and I do these things, and I meet with consumer B and I do these other things, and C and I do this, if I don't have my process down, I'm probably not going to be very effective, very efficient in helping as many of my consumers as I possibly can.
All right.
And then when you mentioned, from a growth standpoint, if you are somebody that's looking to bring on associate advisors and really build your agency out, by having that kind of model of replicating yourself and your success, if you don't have a process for them to follow, how successful do you think they're going to be?
Right. That's exactly right.
So we have to, not only do we have to have that process, but we have to have documentation of that process. So somebody else can pick it up and say, oh yes, I see, I do this here, I do this here, I do this here. And that way you've got, you as the business owner, as the business leader, you've got a track to be able to go to that associate advisor and say, you're doing very well, or you're not doing very well, and here are the areas of improvement you need to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's a gut feeling.
Yeah. And we might have, and I've seen this a number of times, we might have the greatest gut feeling in the world. And then when we actually go in and we do the inspection, it's like, actually, that's not really happening, or it's not happening as often as you think, or as efficient as you think it is. And then all of a sudden that can be frustrating, just going back, like all of the opportunities that you missed out on.
Yeah. If we've done a good job at building an associate advisor, that means we've done a good job at building a salesperson, right? And so that salesperson's probably going to tell us what we want to hear.
Yeah.
Maybe it's kind of the truth. Maybe it's on the outside edge of the truth.
Right.
But if we don't have those metrics and those parameters in place to be able to say without a doubt that they are, they've got the activity, they've got the production, then it's kind of all for naught.
Yeah. In what way do you see the advisor's leadership style, the advisor's culture that they've built? In what way do you see that impacting the client relationship and client satisfaction, client retention, things along those lines?
I think the culture that is set by the business leader, if they've taken the time to actually set the culture and not let the individuals there set it for them.
Right.
Again, that's just a little aside there. If they've done a good job at doing that, as soon as the consumers walk in the door, as soon as the consumers call on the telephone, they can feel that culture, right? And like I mentioned earlier, we go into offices quite frequently. There have been times, Rob, that I've opened that door and
Absolutely.
immediately feel
Absolutely.
tension
Yeah.
or hostility or
Yeah.
just yuck. I just feel yuck. And
Absolutely.
if I'm feeling that, I'm 100% sure that their consumers also feel it when they walk in the door. So that culture piece of it, and making sure that it is created and maintained and driven from the top down, is a critical part of that consumer experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been there as well. I mean, the millisecond you step in there, you're like, oh man, this is going to be a fun couple of days, or
We got
or
our work
also,
cut out for
yeah,
us.
or also on the flip side, you're like, man, I don't want to leave. I want to
Yeah,
stay here.
yeah.
I just really appreciate, they made me feel like I was at home and they had all of this taken care of, and you could just tell who is really, has their heart in it, and that does start with the leadership part of it, and who's allowed to take the lead, and who's been coached and understanding, the client experience internally and externally. Um, so let's talk a little bit about staying competitive in a changing market. This year, more than any other year that I've seen in the annuity business, it has just been a crazy change of annuity rates and factors and companies and products and things like that. So staying competitive is definitely a priority. If someone were to partner alongside the Catalyst team, how does the Catalyst team, what types of tools or what types of processes would the Catalyst team help an advisor to be able to proactively keep up and also stand out as well in this crazy competitive environment we're in right now?
Yeah. So one of the things that always shocks me, Rob, is that our advisors aren't necessarily, excuse me, aren't necessarily great at proactively doing any kind of local market analysis, meaning who are their competitors? Where are their competitors? Are they like seeing them on social media? Do they go to their website? Do they see their billboards? How are their competitors marketing themselves? What kind of messaging are they putting out there? So doing, encouraging them to do things like a market analysis of what are you up against? Who are your competitors? And like actually having a process to be able to follow that. And then, let's start making some objectives, start setting some goals as far as how can I improve or create my actual visibility within my community? What are some things that I can do that I'm not already doing or getting involved with that are going to have my consumers, my end clients, be able to see me and hear from me and really understand who I am and the value of the value they can experience by starting a relationship with me and my firm.
Yeah, all really great stuff. That's one thing that we hear a lot in the marketing side of things is like, I just want to make sure that I'm competitive and I'm making sure I want to have a leading edge. And well, how are you doing that? And the question is, I'm not, and I'm not really doing any sort of education of my competitors in my area, things along those lines. And I would also, talking about hiring and having a good, strong culture. How do we help an advisor to also make sure that they're leaving a lasting impact? And what I mean by that is like even helping the firm to understand that, what, I'm not going to just close the doors one day. I actually have a succession plan in place. Those all have an impact on the culture. So how does the Catalyst team help with that?
Yeah. So right now, more so than ever before, we are working with more agencies and more of our financial advisors on implementing their succession plan or their exit strategy. Right. So most of them are, within 3 to 5 years of saying, I'm going to hang it up. I want to be done. And Rob, the number one thing that we encourage them to do, both with their team and with their consumers, is be transparent and communicate. Don't have this be some big secret that all of a sudden you walk in one day and you tell your clients and you tell your staff, I'm out tomorrow. Here's Steve, your new boss. Best of luck. And they never hear from you again. That's not going to help, with that culture that you've worked so hard to build over the course of your professional life. So honestly, I cannot hit more on the transparency and the open communication and dialogue when it comes to doing that. Do you need to start having those conversations the day you decide I want out in 3 years? No, you don't. There's a right time to start having those conversations and a right way to do those conversations. That's another thing that we would be more than happy to role play with you, to give you pointers on, to give you kind of a structure of what that conversation could look like. So certainly if you find yourself in that situation, please leverage our team for that.
Well, Gretch, I told you time flies when we're on these things. It's about time to wrap this thing up. I definitely really appreciate your time and your wisdom and all of your efforts that you've already worked with my advisors with and with Gradient. It's definitely been a lasting impact, not only for the advisors and their firm, but like I already said, more importantly for their clients. I've got one final question and then we'll wrap this up. For any of the advisors that are listening today, that might feel a bit stagnant or want to revamp maybe their leadership approach, what's their first step in regards to the Catalyst team? How did they get the ball rolling?
So if they haven't already taken the health assessment, that's going to be their first step. So we'll just kind of end this conversation where we started it. That really does give us a lot of information and insight on where to take that conversation with them and what types of goals are going to help them get to where they want to go. If you have already done the health assessment and you're ready for a take 2 or what's next for me, call any one of us or talk to your marketer and say, get me in touch with the Catalyst team. Here's what I'm looking for. And they'll bring it back over to us. We'll figure out what needs to happen next and get going from there. There's nothing like a different voice or a fresh voice or, our entire team, Rob, is so passionate about what we do. Like you said, this time's gone really fast. And a reason for that is I could talk about this stuff all day long, even though our people don't like to talk about it. That is where we find, the most passion in having those conversations. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you're having questions, concerns, or you want to know what does my next step look like. Please let us know.
Awesome. Well, like we started with the Catalyst team, over 85 years of experience. And that experience is only in the financial advisor world, as far as everything from HR to buying and selling financial firms to helping coach leadership and hiring and firing and non-competes and all of that good stuff. So once again, Gretch, just so appreciative of your time. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thanks, Rob. Have me back. This was fun.
100%. Absolutely.